They say heavy is the head that wears the crown. It's time we get bold and honest. Join me, your host, Latina, as we have real conversations revealing our unique womanhood narrative. You can find me beneath the crown. Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Beneath the Crown podcast. I am your host, Latina. Thank you so much for joining me again. So let's get right into it. What are we going to talk about today? I want to talk about balance. And I want to talk about balance because it's really important to me. And no, I'm not talking about balancing at your bar class, even though that's pretty cool too. And I haven't tried that yet, but I want to try it. I actually have a friend who participates in bar classes, and it looks pretty fun. So I have to put that on my list of things to try. So, I want to talk about balance. The definition of balance is having the right amount of something, not too little and not too much. And so, why I thought that this topic was pretty important is because when we're talking about identity and talking about authenticity, it's important that we have balance in our life because it helps us to kind of stay sane as women. So I'll give the example of coffee because you may not know, but you will learn as we continue to talk. I love coffee, and my favorite coffee spot is Starbucks. This is a shameless plug, and no, it's not sponsored. Hashtag not sponsored. So, yeah, I love coffee, and so I think about balance in this way. Um, Balance is having the right amount, so not too much and not too little of any quality, which leads to harmony and evenness. So when I think about it as it relates to coffee, the two major tastes in a balanced cup of coffee, in a balanced cup of black coffee, are bitter and sour, with a balanced cup having an equal amount of both. An unbalanced cup would be either very bitter or very sour. Some people like their coffee mostly bitter and some like it mostly sour. But the goal of most professional baristas is to create a cup that contains bitterness and sourness in a balanced way, with many more complex flavors also present underneath those two major ones. So, for example, with Starbucks, you'll have all of the accoutrements that just make it so yummy and so delicious. You'll have your cream and you'll have your sugar. I don't put sugar in my coffee, but some people do, so that's fine. No judgment here. People will put their cream and sugar and the different syrups, the flavored syrups, and the sprinkles and the little crumbles and everything. Can you tell I really love coffee? So, they'll put those things into the coffee, and then all of those various components make the coffee just taste so yummy, or whatever it is, whatever your drink of choice is. Mine is a caramel macchiato. I love that, and I like it hot and I like it cold. So that's that. So I look at the coffee cup, and I like to kind of feel like it's symbolic of life. And a lot of times in life, we have all have various trials and tribulations, if you will, things that happen in life that kind of throw us off balance or make life at sometimes seem not as sweet and sometimes kind of sour and bitter. And while we can stomach the bitterness and the sourness, sometimes I know some people like black coffee. I'll drink black coffee sometimes when I'm on my lose weight, get in shape, trying to be super, super healthy, I'll drink black coffee. But that's another story for another day. So, but most of the time, even though you can kind of stomach the sourness of life, you can stomach the bitterness of life at times, you need to throw some sweet stuff in there sometimes. You need to throw in some components that will help you to just feel more balanced and more well, if you will, a total wellness type of experience. So for me, what is balance? For me, balance is having the understanding that life will happen, having the understanding that I am not in control as much as I would love to be in control of everything. I'm not in control. And having the understanding that life is more of how you respond to the things that you can't control, than it is just, you know, letting things happen, and just, just going crazy about everything. It's more about how you respond to the things that you can't control. So for me, balance looks like this. I love to go for walks. I love to be creative. I love to sing. I love to craft. I like to create things with my hands and think about creative ways to express myself. And so, as women, I find that if we are not fulfilled within ourselves, then we just can be grumpy and sometimes nasty, and sometimes it's not because you're trying to be, it's just because you may feel overwhelmed with the responsibilities or the requirements that, your life takes to kind of keep everything going, that you lose time for yourself. I had a friend who that always tells me, she's like, you can't pour from an empty cup. And that's so true. You cannot pour from an empty cup. If you don't feel fulfilled in your life, and I'm not just talking about, oh, I have this great job at this Fortune 500 company. I'm an executive. I, have a significant other. I'm a mom. I'm a wife. All of those labels that we put on ourselves, that's a great, but we're more than a label. So if you if you can't find fulfillment within yourself, then your life is going to be out of balance. So I always like to encourage my friends to take some time to figure out what it is that will bring you balance in your life. For me, it's going on walks. I love to go on walks. My neighborhood is very, very festive. And so my neighbors will jump at the chance to decorate and to, just be festive any time of the year, really. So I love walking through the neighborhood. I love looking at people's flowers. I love looking at people's yard signs. Um, Sometimes I'll do a little jog if I'm feeling, like I need to pick up the pace and do a little jog. But honestly, for the most part, it's just a little slow walk. It's nothing too crazy. It's just a slow walk. And I'm using that time to clear my mind. I'm listening to the birds chirp. I may or may not chirp back. And I just am walking and I'm allowing myself to not think about anything. I'm clearing my mind and I'm literally just walking. And I have gotten so many gems along the way of my walks. I take pictures of things that I feel are so beautiful that I wouldn't have typically noticed, driving past them in my car. I stop and I as cliche as this is going to sound, I stop and smell the roses. There's so many rose bushes in my neighborhood that I stop. I smell the roses and I kind of just take an inventory of like how I feel in that moment. And so for me, that creates balance because I can take my walk and I can focus on nothing and everything at the same time, if that makes sense. I can clear my mind from all of the stresses that I may be experiencing in that particular day or time. And I can just be free and I can just walk. I took a picture a couple of weeks ago. I was walking and I took a picture of a flower that reminded me of a tree that my grandmother had in her yard when I was growing up. And she's passed away now. God rest her soul. But thank God that her soul is still, here with us. Her legacy is still here. But I took a picture of that and just me seeing it, seeing that particular flower up close, it brought back so many memories for me because I can distinctly remember how that tree, it was a tree, it was a magnolia tree. I can distinctly remember how that tree looked in her yard and how it was so grand and so tall. It expanded far beyond her home in height and in width. It just overtook her yard. The smell was so fragrant that it was almost too fragrant. It was a very pungent smell. that you could literally smell it as soon as you turn the block onto her street. Turn the corner onto her street or onto her block. You could literally smell it. When you got out the car, the fragrance filled the air. And so in that moment on that walk, I thought about my grandmother, and it brought me so much joy, and I wouldn't have had that experience. I really felt like, wow, I believe she is my ancestor, and I believe that God put that tree there on my walk to remind me that my ancestors are here with me and they are on this journey with me, and she has imparted in me a lot of jewels and a lot of wisdom that at the time she was imparting it into me, I didn't realize that's what she was doing. But I felt like that tree was a reminder to me to keep going. Hey, really quick, if you haven't heard about Anchor, it's the easiest way to make a podcast. Let me explain. It's free. There are creation tools that allow you to record and edit your podcast right from your phone or your computer. How easy is that? Anchor will distribute your podcast for you so it can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many more. You can even make money from your podcast with no minimum listenership. It's everything you need to make a podcast in one place. All you have to do is download the free Anchor app or go to anchor.fm to get started. That's downloading the free Anchor app or going to anchor.fm to get started. I feel like it was a reminder to me that you have someone that may not physically be here, but they are still spiritually here in spirit, still praying and still interceding on your behalf to give you the strength that you need for your journey. And so that was so exhilarating to me. It really was. It was so exhilarating to me that I had to capture it and I had to take a picture because I wanted to remember that moment. I wanted to remember how I felt because seeing that magnolia tree just took me back to my grandmother's. It took me back to my childhood. It took me back to her home and how special it was to go to her home and to see that tree. And it just took me back. So for me, balance is walking. Another another form of balance to me is reading and journaling. I love to read and journal. One of the books that I've read and I am continuing, it's like a journey of reading to continuing to read this particular book. It's Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. And if you haven't read it, that is a really good book to read. It really helps you to enlighten yourself on who you are as a woman, and it helps you to kind of get in tune with your own unique womanly journey. And it's something that is a process. So it's not a book that you kind of can just read from start to finish in one day. It's something where you're, journaling and you're taking inventory of a lot of the key concepts that are proposed in the book. And so that's a crown jewel. I totally recommend that book to every woman to read. And it's even better if you have women in your life that you're partnering with that you can recommend that book to as well, that you all read it at the same time. And, you can kind of discuss it as you're going through the book. And so, again, Sacred Woman by Queen Afua. I love, 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 love her. I think that the work that she's doing is brilliant and it's necessary. It's necessary because we, as women, we need to really focus on our wellness, and we need to really focus on the fact that we are all in this journey together. We're partnering together, but we all have our own we all have our own unique journeys that we're on. And so we need each other. And that's what this space is about, just having our own unique circle of women that we can share and we can be open and transparent with. So for me, again, that's what balance is about. And then also, and I always like to do an inventory of where I am in my particular space or my particular thought process. So for me, when it comes to balance, I'm typically by nature a pessimistic type of person. I have been working very hard towards not being a pessimist because there's no value in that. And so that's been a journey of mine. But with balance, I find that it's very important to focus on one good thing that's happening in your life and focus on that to balance out the uncertainty of everything else. So, like I stated before, we can't control everything. We really can't control anything. God is in control. And so, with that being said, it's very easy to get out of balance because as women, we want to control everything. We want to, have everything planned out and things need to be just right and all of that. But when we kind of take a step back and say, you know what? I can't control everything and I need to stop trying to control everything. Let me focus on one good thing that's happening in my life. And when I focus on that one good thing that's happening in my life, then that will help to balance out the uncertainty of everything else. And so that's what I want your takeaway to be from this conversation that we're having today. What is your balance? What is it that helps you to feel centered? What is your woosah moment in time or in your day? I have a friend who loves to garden, and that is her woosah part of her day. Every day she does something in her garden, which I think is beautiful. We should be growing our own food. I have another friend who is like loving exercising, which is great. I love to exercise too, but y'all need to pray my strength because some days are better days and some days are not, and I'm just not feeling it some days. But y'all pray my strength on that. But so for that one other particular friend, her balance is that she loves to exercise and she has varying exercises. So one day she may do cardio, which may include cycling. And then another day she may go to her yoga class, or one day she may choose to do Pilates, or she may just decide to go for a walk. And that's her balance, Um, I have another friend who just likes to sit in her living room for 30 minutes and everyone knows to leave her alone. And she sits there and she's quiet and she doesn't do anything but looks out the window, like literally. She has her moment in time where she sits there and she doesn't do anything, but she looks out the window and that is her time for herself. So I want to encourage you to find your balance. That is going to be key. It's going to be important because as women, we wear so many hats and we give of ourselves so much that sometimes, and I've been guilty of this too. Sometimes you feel guilty for saying, you know what? I need a moment. I need some time to myself to do something that I like to do that's going to give me my, this is my woosah moment. Sometimes you can feel guilty for that, especially when you have other obligations, you have other family members that are depending on you, rightfully so, to fulfill whatever obligations you are responsible to fulfill. But at the end of the day, like I told you, my friend is always telling me, you cannot pour from an empty cup. So um, I just want to challenge everyone or encourage everyone to find your balance in life. Find that something sweet that you can put in your coffee cup of life and remind yourself of one good thing that's happening in your life today. When you do that, it will help you to balance your cup of life. And so I want you to do me a favor. I want you to go over to my Instagram page. It's at Beneath the Crown Podcast. And I want you to leave me a comment and let me know, how are you balancing your life? What are you doing that is giving you your woosah moment? What are you doing that is something for you? It doesn't have to be a whole hour. It could be 10 minutes of your day. It could be 15, 20, 30 minutes of your day. What are you doing that is a ritual? What is a routine? Something that you're doing that will give you balance, that will put some sweetness in your coffee cup of life, that will help you to remember who you are and help you to have the fuel that you need to kind of continue to go on and fulfill the obligations and responsibilities that you have. So, with that being said, thank you so much for joining me today. Please remember to share this conversation with your friends, your sister girls, and remember to download this episode, subscribe, leave me some feedback, and you can follow me on Instagram at Beneath the Crown Podcast. And I'll see you next week, Beneath the Crown. Thank you for joining me on this week's episode of Beneath the Crown. Please remember to subscribe, download, leave a review, and most importantly, share the conversation with another friend. I'll see you next week as we go beneath the crown.